Right, hello there. It's been a while since I've been on camera, and as you can tell from the title of the video, this is my Premier League 2022-2023 predictions. I am aware that I am, a bit late on this, but I was watching them on Friday last week. I was watching a few Premier League predictions before the Palace Arsenal game, and I thought, I'll do this myself. So I started kind of compiling my league and my list and setting it up on Streamlabs and stuff. And I finalised it, I think it was just before the Liverpool and Fulham game, and got it all sorted. So it's not influenced by the results of the weekend just gone, but we'll see what my predictions are and see if the start of the season is going out as I planned. This is my own list. It's not going to be scientific. It's not going to be me basically saying that I've analysed all these statistics and Liverpool, had a 89% of pass rates. It's not going to be that. It's just my own general opinion and my own bit of bias. So yeah, as I said, there will be a bit of bias there and a bit of, maybe I'm not such a big fan of this team, but I'll try to keep it as, for lack of a better term, professional as possible. So we shall kick things off and see where things go. Sorry, I keep looking down at the screen, I always forget to look at the camera. So probably should mute that. Yeah, what I'm doing is I've done a list and I'm just deleting slides off Streamlabs as I go along. So number 20, AFC Bournemouth. Pull up their transfers here. I just don't think, from when they came up, I just don't think they had the squad to compete. I mean, when they went down, they lost a ton of players, and I just can't. Looking at their transfers now, there's nothing there that jumps out at me and says they're gonna stay up. I mean, obviously they had a good win against Villa over the weekend, but I just can't see it. Like, looking at their players, I don't really know any of them. I mean, obviously, with every single team, there is time left to buy more players, and honestly, I just can't see where it's going to come from. I mean, look at Senesi, Tavernier, Rothwell, Fredericks, NATO, and Kilkenny. I mean, none of them are really like, oh my god, they're going to stay up. The squad doesn't scream it either. They haven't really got anything worth shouting about. I just see them coming bottom. I don't see anything that suggests that they're gonna finish any higher. I mean, yeah, obviously that, as I said, they had a good result. They beat Villa 2-0, but I think that was just more Villa being poor, than Bournemouth being good. So 20th for Bournemouth. 19th, I've got Nottingham Forest. Now, Nottingham Forest, they've been trying to get promoted for years, and there was that year, was it last year or the year before, where they were in the playoffs and they needed to not lose like 5-0 or something like that, and it just went and happened, and it was just terrible. And then obviously they've gone through a fair few managers. They've come up. Their team, I feel like they've just thrown money at it. I mean, they've made, what is it, 12, I think, and like looking at them, like Neco Williams, Wayne Hennessy, Lingard, Henderson, Carl Jenkinson, which I don't know why they've loaned him in. It's just you look at their transfers and you think, who? As I said, I feel like they've tried to throw as much money to the wall and buy as many players. It's a lot of players. It is a lot of players to bring in. And I just don't see it working out for them. Their team was like decent for what it is, but as I said, I just feel like you've got 12 new players, so that's like you can register 25 players. So like half of that, half your registration. The rest of these players like Jack Holback and players like that. I just don't see it working out for him in the slightest. I just don't think they're going to do very well. A lot of people have put that they think that Forest will stay up, but it's a slippery slope because they lost 2-0 to Newcastle. You know, they played pretty decent, but then like when you look at the highlights, all the highlights were Newcastle. Well, that I saw anyway, and I think it's just going to be one of them. It's like, if they don't get results now, it's just going to get worse and worse and snowball, and they're going to be looking at the teams that are around them to pick up points, and they're going to be fighting for their lives as well. And I think Forest are fighting for their lives, to be fair, and I think the fans know that. I don't think the fans expect much more than just staying up. But yeah, I just don't think they've got enough. I really don't think they've got enough, and I think they're going to struggle. Coming in at 18, Everton. Now, this one is slightly skewed with bias. I will admit to that. Last season, they were just doing poorly. Even under Rafa couldn't do anything with them. They've spent in the past I think 5 years or something. They've spent nearly 700 million on players. They're not getting Europe. They're not getting up the top half of the league. They're just floundering. And Lampard came in, and I just don't think Lampard's a very good manager. I really don't think he is. He came in, and then they ended up, I think they started out in 14th, and they ended up in 14th, and it's just like, you've literally just stood still. You could have just kept Rafa. And Lampard did come in, and things were just going really badly. And then, just at the end of the season, they picked up those few nitpicky results that propelled them forward. And I just don't think they're in any better shape. I really don't. Again, you look at their transfers. Tarkovsky, McNeil, both from Burnley. Burnley got relegated. Vinagre, Virginia, and Kunku, and Bamin, I don't know how you say his name, I apologise. The last four of them are transfers. Not known transfers. Their squad's not any better than it was last season, and especially, I didn't rate him at all. I think he's overrated, but they've lost Richarlison. I just felt like he was one of those players that he didn't play for the game, he played for the foul, and he was constantly harassing the centre backs, and that is good at times, but it's not good enough. I don't know why Tottenham bought him, to be fair. But yeah, like, and they were one of the ones that were like, games got postponed because of COVID, and they were like, oh, no one should be allowed to play their new signings. I think it was mostly aimed at Newcastle because they were like, well, we should play the Newcastle of a couple of months ago that were awful and had no faith in themselves and no hope that anything was going to get any better, and they were just hoping to get a quick, easy win. I think they did end up beating us 1-0, I believe, because it was the one where that idiot zip tied his neck to the bloody goalpost, and they came on with their big massive bolt cutters and they were like rusty and they couldn't even cut through the zip tie. And then I think they like scored right at the end, and I was fuming. I was fuming at that, but yeah, they haven't added to their squad that suggests that they're going to do any better. I don't think Lampard's a good manager. He took them from mediocrity to mediocrity, and then I felt like they embarrassed themselves by running on the pitch and celebrating when they stayed up, and it's like, you're literally celebrating mediocrity. You've done awful, and you are celebrating the players that aren't good enough to put on the shirt. And I just think it's going to cost them this season, especially if they don't bring in any more players. I really think it's going to cost them. But yeah, moving on to 17th, I have Leeds United. They were another team that barely survived, like, by the skin of their teeth. I think it was because Newcastle beat Burnley, I believe. And obviously Burnley went down. I think Leeds would have gone if it weren't for that result. They've lost like Rafinha and Calvin Phillips, which for them are like massive losses, like massive losses. They've brought in, by the looks of it, a fair few players, none of whom I really recognise. None of the names ring a bell, but hey, they've brought in 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. They've brought in 13 players. But I don't. Whereas the same situation with Forest, they've still got a team that have been in the Premier League. A lot of their players are still Premier League quality. They've just added extra, and I think they got Patrick Bamford to come back, because I think he was injured for most of the season, so that's a good positive for them. Not much more to say about Leeds, really. I think they're just going to just barely stay up. But as I said, they've brought in a lot more depth, and I believe that I think they'll be all right. Next, number 16, Southampton. Now, Southampton are one. They have such quality players, and they mould these players, and they have a really good team, then they lose them all. And it's happened for years. I think, honestly, they could go down. Don't think they will. I think they'll just stay up like Leeds, but Southampton, Leeds and Everton, I think you could switch them around any which way you want, and I really think that I don't think they've got enough quality. Like, they've brought in a few players, but they're all youngsters, which is what they do, to be fair. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them are 23 and under. Again, same with Leeds. I don't think there's much to say about them. I think they could possibly go down, but I really don't. I'm really unsure there. I don't know, but we'll see come the end of the season. Number 15, Brentford. They're gonna be worried about second season syndrome, where like, I think Reading did it. They were like the first season they bombed up the league and they were really good, and then everything just caved in. I think Brentford will be alright though. They've not really lost anyone. They've lost like none of their first team really, apart from Christian Eriksen, but I don't think he was the key component to their success last year. They've still got quality players. They've still got Ivan Toney up top, which, as long as they keep on to him, I think they'll do really well. Yeah. Again, not much to say about them. Ben Mee's a good transfer, but they've just got no one really world class that are going to push them further up the league. I don't think they'll do as good as last season, but I don't think they'll go down. I think they'll just settle around the mid of the bottom half of the table. Number 14, Fulham. Now, a lot of people have pegged them to get relegated. Don't think that'll happen. And after seeing their performance against Liverpool, who are, Champions League finalists, second in the league, you can sit there all day and say Liverpool weren't good enough, but Fulham just resisted them. I think if it weren't for that Nunes, I don't think Liverpool would have got anything from that game. I think he came and he changed it completely. They have lost Carvalho, which is a big miss for them, but from what I saw of Anders Pereira, I think they'll do alright. They've also got Kevin and Mbabu. As long as I think the key to Fulham is they need to keep Mitrovic, and he needs to score the goals, and I think they'll be fine. They've not really strengthened really well since coming up, but again they've still got time, and I think between players like Mitrovic, Pereira, and Barbu, when he's fit and he's ready to play, I think they'll do really well. So yeah, I think they're good bang for their buck. 13th, Wolves. They're one of those teams that they've lost not as much as I thought they had. I thought they'd lost more players than they actually have. I swear that Raul Jimenez, I swear they lost him. Guess I was wrong. But yeah, I don't think that they've not really strengthened to a sufficient quality, to be fair. There's a lot of players coming back from loans, but are they good enough to stick in the Premier League? Yeah, a lot of end of loans. They've signed Hwang from Leipzig and Nathan Collins from Burnley. I think they'll just flounder. They've still got really good players. Don't get me wrong, but I just really don't think they're players that are good enough. I think they lost, didn't they? Who did they lose to? I think it was Leeds. But that's my take on Wolves anyway. I think we're going on to 12th now. Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace were, at one point, they were dead in the water. They had so many players, all the contracts were running out, they were going to lose off their first team. They brought in Doucouré, Sam Johnston from West Brom. They've not really strengthened. I think they've got a decent enough side. I think they'll be one of those teams that half the games they'll lose, half the games they'll win. I think it would just be good enough. I don't think they're going to be sucked into not relegation or anything, but it was Wolves, Palace, and a couple of teams below. I think they're the ones that could change position, but I don't think they're in any danger of going down, but I don't think they're in a danger of going forward. I think they need to consolidate mid-table and then push on next season, or maybe January, because I don't think they're going to bring in many more top quality players. I mean, they did alright against Arsenal. Arsenal were just slightly better, they weren't that much better, but I just think they'll just be around. They'll just be there. 11th. 11th we have Brighton. Now Brighton are they are a very one of those teams that I'm not 100% sure about. They've lost Basuma and what's his name? Cucurella. They haven't replaced them, but the money they've got for them too, they've got to be given the money, because there's bags of cash that they can probably buy maybe maybe 5 more players and strengthen their squad. I think they're a really good squad. They beat Man United. That's not saying much, because Man United are all over the place, but Brighton I've just got a feeling. I've got a feeling that they'll do the same as next season. They could get higher if they buy more players, but they're literally going to have to buy more players. They have to. They have to replace 2 of their important players. So they need to at least make 2 top signings, and from where they finished last season, they're not going to be Europe, but they're not going to be relegation fodder. And I think they're a project that a player could look at and go, oh, I'll go to Brighton. I think they ended up finishing about 10th or 11th or something like that. But they just need to bring more players in. They need to strengthen. They need a few more. They're like Crystal Palace. They're all right, but they really, really, really need to buy more players. Moving on to 10th, Leicester City. Now, let's have a look at who Leicester have signed. No one. No one at all. Their squad is exactly the same as it was last season. They've lost Kasper Schmeichel, which I think is going to be a big miss. But I think at his point, he's 35. Try something new while you've got the chance. He's got maybe a couple of years left. I mean, obviously they need to replace him. I don't know who their other goalkeeper is. I don't think they've got another top quality keeper that brings it in, but they're a team. I think it's the FFP that they're worried about. I think they've got a really good team, but if they end up losing I think Tillmans is an option for someone they might lose. James Maddison. Newcastle seem to be adamant about knocking on that door and not letting that bone go. So they're really hoping to get him. If they can get the money for Maddison, what they want, and they can sell a few players which they need to sell to buy. They've still got Vardy, they've still got Maddison if he stays, they've still got Tillmans, they've still got a fair few good players. But they're not going to progress if they don't buy more players. But they're not going to flounder if they don't sell them. If they keep the same squad and don't really bring anyone in, then I think that they'll be alright. But they need to buy players if they want to move forward. Number 9? Yeah, 9th. Aston Villa. Now, Aston Villa are an interesting watch. They've got that Boubacar Kamara. They've got Wesley back. They've got Trezeguet back. They've signed Coutinho. They've signed Diego Carlos. I think they're in good shape. They were really good last year. They've strengthened slightly, not enough to push for like top 6 or anything, but I think they've strengthened really well. I feel like their loss at Bournemouth was a blip. I think it was just one of them. It's just, like Liverpool had a bad day. I think Villa just had a bad day. Except Villa's bad day was a lot worse because they're not on track to win the league. They've brought in really good players. I think they need to make sure they play Watkins. Ollie Watkins is going to be very important. They've got Buendia, Coutinho as well. Coutinho was good for them last year. Buendia was pretty decent. Matty Cash is a fantastic right back. But they just need to sit down. They need to get their heads together, and they need to be like, this is our aim, and they need to go out and do it. I think it's probably been the best time to be a Villa fan in a long time. Like, my mum's a Villa fan, and she'd probably say the same, that this is probably the most exciting. I don't think Gerrard's a very good manager. I think, when you take over at Rangers, there's 2 teams in the league of Rangers and Celtic, and I think he's a bit like Lampard. He's been found out that the Premier League is not cut out for it yet. I think Gerrard will be good. I think one day, probably when Klopp goes, he'll walk into that Liverpool job because it's just the job that's made for him. Unlike Lampard, who didn't really do what he should have with his beloved Chelsea. I think Gerrard, he can get to a point where he can be a really good manager. Then number 8. And this is where a bit of bias comes in. People might look at that and think Newcastle 8th. I'm not really sure about that. Obviously, I'm wearing the shirt. I'm pointing to the wrong side. I'm wearing the shirt. I'm a Newcastle fan. I've mentioned Newcastle a few times in this video, and this is a subject where I feel like I am more than qualified to talk about this team. October last year, we hadn't won a game in the first 14 games. We were languishing, we were bottom, we were down and out. And then along came Eddie Howe. He lifted the spirits. He got Joe Linton playing in the right place. You got St Maximin progressing a bit. I think St Maximin's still got a way to go. He sorted the defence out in January. He brought in Dan Burn, which I think was our best signing, honestly, because our defence was all over the place. He brought Dan Burn in, and the defence just solidified. We had Kieran Trippier on the right. He brought Matt Targett in on loan, and them two helped Burn shore up that back line. We had Shah, and I think that back line's was sorted, especially with signing Sven Botman. I think when you've got Trippier and Kraft on one side, then you've got Target, and it's looking like there's a youngster Bondswell, or it will be Jamal Lewis on the left, and then in the middle you've got the three. You've got Shah, Botman, and Burn. You've got Lascelles kind of in the background, so I feel like if someone goes down, we've got cover. Midfield wise, he brought Bruno in. Bruno's been a revelation. People will probably say that he's our best signing, but he's that far behind Dan Burn, and it was only Dan Burn because he solidified that defence. We haven't really solidified much this transfer window. We've been trying to. We really have. But it's just not been helped. It's just not there. I think goalkeeper wise, we've got Dubravka and Pope. Don't think we have to worry about that. I think if Pope ends up being our number one, Dubravka's going to leave, but hopefully we can postpone that till January so we can scout a youngster or someone that's just below Nick Pope. Carl Darlow's good. He's not the best, but he's decent. I think where we need to go out is where I think he's been trying to is we need more firepower up top. I would like another winger and I'd like another striker, because I feel striker wise we've got Callum Wilson and Chris Wood. Chris Wood isn't good enough. I mean, he can be alright if in a pinch. I mean, I can't fault his commitment and his passion. He really did try. He's not a goal scorer. And if Callum Wilson goes down, who is our goal scorer, who scored on the weekend, when he got injured the back end of the season, if we'd have had him in the team, I think we could have pushed and gone further. And then you've got winger-wise, we've got Almiron and St Maximin. Elliot Anderson is looking like he might get, a few appearances, be a sub, be involved in the first team, but again, he's just a young kid, and I don't know whether he can do it. And then you look behind that, and you've got Matt Ritchie, Jacob Murphy, Ryan Fraser. They're not going to do much for you. They're not world class. They're decent backups if you need them. So I just think we really need to push for more striking options, and I think 8th is realistic. I feel like if we did get James Maddison and maybe Paqueta, maybe we could get away with just Callum Wilson and Chris Wood up top. But I would like to see another striker come in. I think if we carry on the way we did the back end of the season, I think Eddie Howe came in. I think we lost to Man City, Liverpool, Everton, and honestly, I think there was only a few other teams that really worried us. We had the 6th best form, so why not? Why not dream big? Number 7. Manchester United. They are in deep trouble. The squad isn't good enough. I think getting rid of Pogba was a really good start. They need to get rid of Ronaldo because I think they're both negative. They're they're just a drag on the team. I think Harry Maguire, he needs to sit down and be like, you need to improve, or sorry mate, you're off, or you don't play much, you sit on the bench. They really need to solidify. They haven't really bought anyone. I think just before I started recording this, they've signed a Italian midfielder. Lissandro Martinez, I think he'll do good at the back. Christian Eriksen, he's getting on. I just don't think he's this big option that they think. I think Wan-Bissaka is a weak link. I think De Gea is a weak link. I think they need a new goalkeeper, and they need striking power up front, because Rashford and Martial ain't the option. They were poor against Brighton. Not to take anything away from Brighton, because they were really good, but they were poor against Brighton, and I really think Man United struggled. I think because they've still got pretty much the same squad as the last season, I think you've got to give Ten Hag time. You can't just expect him to work miracles, and it's like they lose against Brighton, everyone's on their back, and it's like, he's trying. What more can you do? What more can you do with that team? I really don't think that they're going to do very well. I think they'll struggle to get Europe, and I just don't think they've got nothing. But they need to get rid of Ronaldo, because you saw him sat on the bench and he was pulling faces and being negative. And when he was brought on, he doesn't work with Ten Hag's system, but no one wants him. That's the problem. You can't even turn around to him and say, terminate your contract, because he'll want the money. I mean, it could be worth just going, oh, there you go, there's your money, and you're off. But I think he'll struggle to find another team. I just think Man United are in deep trouble, and if they don't stop the rot now, I think they could become a mid-table side. Number 6, West Ham. Fantastic last season, playing against Man City. They lost to Erling Haaland. I think Scamacca, when he came on, he really showed a lot of difference. I think he meant Antonio. Them two up top, I think they'll do really well. I'm not 100% sure if they've signed many other people. Naya Fagerd, never heard of him. I mean, that Maxwell Cornet, I think Newcastle are in for him. I think he's going to be, your team's tired, let's throw him on. I bought that Alphonse Areola, whatever you say his name. I think he's a really decent goalkeeper for him. But yeah, I think they'll go forward. I think they could. I don't think they'll push top 4, but I think they'll push 5th, 6th, 7th, around about there. I'm very impressed with West Ham. I've never really been a massive West Ham person, but I think they'll do really well. Number 5, Chelsea. Chelsea are a difficult one. Chelsea are one of those that, I mean, they brought Raheem Sterling. I think that's a really good signing for him. They've got that Cucurella. They brought that Koulibaly. They lost because they lost Rudiger and Christensen, which was a massive blow. So I think they really need to sort that out. Up top, I don't think they've got much going on. But yeah, I think they need maybe 1 or 2 more players, and they should be okay. I don't think they'll get Champions League. I think Thomas Tuchel has got his back against the wall, because I don't think top players will want to come to Chelsea, but I think they can do a job. Chelsea just there, aren't they? They'll always be there, whoever they've got managing them. But I think they just need to strengthen up that defensive core, and hopefully losing Christensen and Rudiger doesn't hurt them so much. And that apparently there's a few youngsters as well that haven't got shirt numbers, so I think he's cutting Deadwood. I think he's cutting the ones that have been there, like Kennedy. He's been there for bloody years and they've not used him. Trim that Deadwood instead of keep loaning him out, get some money for him. I don't know whether they've got rid of him. I mean, they haven't really sold anyone, but we'll see. Which then makes the top four pretty obvious, the four teams. I've got Arsenal in fourth. Gabriel Jesus, Zinchenko. Who else have they signed? Because those are the two that I was really impressed with. Where are they? There they are. Vieira, Marquinhos. I think they've brought decent in. I feel like they've brought decent players in. I think Jesus will work well into their system because he's not an out-and-out striker, goal scorer. Well, it's Arsenal, isn't it? They'll try and walk into the net. They're a passing team. They're not thunderbolts from the edge of the area, crossing the ball in, big men nodding it in, apart from Giroud, which they've lost to Aubameyang and Lacazette, which I don't think is really going to affect them, but I'm just a massive Arsenal fan at the moment. I think I've got Jesus in my in my fantasy team because I think he'll do really well for them, and I think they'll finish fourth. I think they'll get that Champions League football. They could swap with Chelsea or maybe West Ham if West Ham can do really well, but Arsenal need to pick up points and momentum, and they've started out really well, so I think they'll do really well. Then we've got third, Tottenham. Another team, but I'd never liked Tottenham. I never rated Harry Redknapp. I didn't like him. I always felt like Tottenham should have pushed forward and been a top side years ago, and they've just haven't found the right manager. I think Conte, they've found a really good manager. I'm not impressed with Richarlison. As I said with the Everton thing, I don't think he's really good, but they've got Basuma, that Jed Spence, Perisic is a really good, Lenglet from Barcelona. I think they're really good signings. And not to mention, they've got the goal machine that's Harry Kane, and a player who is always my first pick in my fantasy team, and he has been for a few years, and that's Son. I love Son. I think Son's a great player. If Newcastle ever had the chance and he wanted to come, I would snap him up straight away. Going forward, they're really good. They've got that, God, what's his name? Kalush. Something begins with a K. He seems like he's going to be really good for them. I think they'll come third. I don't think they'll challenge top two, but I think they've got enough to come third. And I think if you said to Spurs fans, you're going to finish third, I think they'll snap your hand off. They're going to score goals because of Son and Kane. But I think they brought Richarlison in because I think the one place where they were weak was they didn't have enough players that score goals. They need goal scorers, and they've always struggled to get someone. Because if Kane goes down, yeah, you've got Son, but then you've only got Son. I think more goals need to come from the rest of the team. I think they've got that now. I think they'll finish third. You can guess who the top two are, but what order? Liverpool second. One thing, I'll probably lump Liverpool and Man City into one quick talk. Sorry. Just one quick talk. Erling Haaland. Was that, I missed that open goal, oh my god, and then he goes and scores 2 goals against West Ham, and West Ham are, in my opinion, a top 6 side. Liverpool looked really bad against Fulham. They lost Mane. Apart from that, they haven't really lost anyone major. But Carvalho, he should be okay. Who came from Fulham, which, you know, he's a good youngster and he's going to take time for him to settle in. But their big marquee signing was Nunes, and I think he's one of them. He's going to bully the defence. He'll create silly chances like for Salah's goal, and obviously you got Salah. You got Salah behind you. You know he's going to get like 20 goals a season, but I don't think it's going to be enough. And I think it's not going to be enough because of Erling Haaland, and Erling Haaland is world class. And then you look and you've got Mahrez, you've got Grealish, you've got De Bruyne. Grealish needs a lot of work. And De Bruyne, he's another one. Like last year, player of the season. And it would have been a travesty if he didn't get it. They've also brought in Calvin Phillips. But they've not really brought anyone else in, and they didn't need to. Their team's set. They've got Robertson and Alexander-Arnold. They've got Van Dijk in the middle. They've got Alisson and goal. What can you say? And then... No, Calvin Phillips was Man City, sorry. Don't know whether I pointed that out. But yeah, Man City first. Haaland's goals are going to propel him forward. I think he's a massive upgrade on Jesus, however you want to say it. But yeah, that's my table. That's the order, and then we just look at it one more time. This is the best. I couldn't find a better way of doing it, and I'm not really computer savvy to make up my own. But Man City, then Liverpool, Tottenham, Arsenal. I think that top four solidified. You've got Chelsea, West Ham, Man United. I think Chelsea and West Ham can switch around. I don't think Man United can. And then you've got Villa, Newcastle, Leicester. Again, any order. Brighton, Palace, Wolves. I think more Palace, Wolves will swap round, but I think Brighton will be alright. Relegation battle. I think Fulham will be fine. But I think Brentford, the second season syndrome. Southampton, Leeds are worrying. I think they could drop in and Everton could come out. But I really think Forest and Bournemouth are going down. Everton, I feel like they should. But I think it's between them and Leeds. But yeah, that's my table of 20. I've been talking for nearly 50 minutes, which is the longest I've talked in a straight line. I haven't been on camera for a long time. This is my first video for YouTube that I've done exclusively for my new YouTube, because I had loads on my other one, but I wanted to rebrand, start fresh. I put up 2 videos, Final Fantasy 7 videos, and that's all I've done. But football, it's important to me. It's been in my life since I was like 3 or 4. I've been a Newcastle fan since I was 6, and it's, you know, behind my family. It's the thing I'm most passionate about, and I always will be. And good times to be a Newcastle fan. Pushing forward, pushing on. I'm excited for this season because I think Newcastle are really going to push on. But yeah, that is my table. That is who I think's gonna. That's the order. As I said, some of them might switch around. I will come back when the World Cup starts. I might do like a World Cup video. Teams to watch out for. Team I think is going to win it. Teams that I think are going to be underdogs. And oh my god, they've done really well. And I will come back and do an update on the Premier League table. But yeah, if you've enjoyed this video, give it a like, subscribe to my channel. I'm going to try and put more stuff on my channel so people have got a reason to like and subscribe. If you've got this far into the video, thank you very much. I also stream on Twitch, which is also Deacon Dead Gaming. Join me on there as well, follow me on Twitch. But yeah, football, the new season's here. We're all excited for it. We all love it. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Thank you very much, and I'll see you again soon.